Senator Jeffries, and I want to say I was alarmed and distressed to read that another January 6th pardoned convict has been picked up, this time apparently in connection with saying he was coming to New York looking for you, Mr. Jeffries, saying he was going to eliminate you. And apparently you had a public event in New York yesterday, and he's been picked up for that. And it's an alarming situation where now we have many of these January 6 defendants who have been picked up on other offenses. The Department of Justice is not zealously prosecuting them for other crimes that they've committed. They've even taken the position that if other crimes were discovered in the course of the January 6 investigation, they were pardoned for those crimes too, which is false, which contradicts the actual text of the pardon. But they are bending over backwards to let these people be out. And it's a very dangerous situation. And I said on the very day that Donald Trump pardoned 1,600 people en masse without obviously studying the details of each individual case, that President Trump and his administration would be responsible for whatever happens with these people. They've got a responsibility to rein them in. Some of them they've hired. Jared Wise, who is a January 6th attendee, he was there on the 6th, and he entered the building illegally, and he also chanted "kill him" when his fellow riders were attacking the police. He called the police Nazis and Gestapo. He's now the senior advisor to Ed Martin, who himself was there on January 6th and was a lawyer for people on January 6th. And he tweeted out on that day that it was like Mardi Gras. So we have a very serious problem with political violence in this country. Thank God that you are safe, Mr. Jeffries, but we are asking for the Department of Justice to get serious about reining these people in all over the country, especially since Ed Martin clearly knows them, and he is head of the so-called weaponization task force. It was my honor and it was my pleasure to be accompanied today by our new colleague, Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva from the great state of Arizona. She accompanied me to the floor. I tried to get recognition. There was no other business today. I was standing directly opposite the acting speaker for the day, Mr. Herodopoulos. The moment the Pledge of Allegiance was over, I asked for recognition because I wanted to move a unanimous consent motion that the Speaker of the House be directed to move on the next legislative day, tomorrow, to swear in Ms. Grijalva, and yet he turned away, he pretended he didn't notice me, and he scurried out of the room, which to me is disgraceful. We need to act on this. Ms. Grijalva's hundreds of thousands of constituents deserve to be represented in Congress. And even during these pro forma sessions, all of us who are members of Congress, including Congresswoman-elect Grijalva, can introduce legislation. But Ms. Grijalva, as I understand it, I'll let her tell you about it, she is not able to do constituent work for her constituents. We are trying to get in touch with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the VA every day on behalf of our constituents. Meantime, she's got constituent requests piling up on a desk, and I'd be very interested to hear you talk, Adelita, about what resources you have and what resources you don't have. But we consider you an elected member of Congress. There's no right or power that's been invoked by Speaker Johnson as to why he continues to refuse to swear her in. So I'm just here to endorse all the demands of our leadership. We should bring Congress back. The Republicans should get back to Washington, and we should restore all of the health care that's been savagely cut by the Republicans' dreadful, awful bill, and we should swear in our new colleague, and we should move forward with the business of the people. I am very pleased to introduce you to Adelita Grijalva, our most newly elected member of Congress who continues to wait to be sworn in.
Thank you. Thank you. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Thank you, Leader Jeffries and Ranking Member Raskin, for the opportunity to speak here, and for, I think this is the 5th time that a member of Congress has tried to get some recognition in order to have me sworn in. Today is day 28 since my election. And I think that it's really important that we appreciate that 812,000 Arizonans do not have representation in Congress. My dad passed away a little over 7 months ago in March. And since that time, the offices were able to provide constituent services. It was the People's Office of Arizona CD7. On September 23rd, those services ended. And so I do not have access to provide services in district. And I think that I also don't have a budget. So this back and forth, coming back and forth, is on my miles that I had stored up because I don't have a budget. I'm not able to open a lease in district. And I think that, you know, the efforts that have been provided to me, and I'm appreciative of the administration's effort, the departments in the administration, they're trying to provide piecemeal solutions to some of the problems that we have. But respectfully, there's so much that cannot be done until I am sworn in. And so every moment that passes that I'm not able to provide constituent services or be a voice for Arizona, I can't bring the issues forward that they sent me here to do. And so while you know, we're getting a lot of attention for not being sworn in, I'd rather get the attention for doing my job. And I can't do that right now without being sworn in. And it's just notable to continue to mention, there were 2 Republican members that were sworn in less than 24 hours from the date of their special election, April 1st. They were sworn in less than 24 hours, April 2nd, on a pro forma session. It's not unheard of for this speaker to do that. And so I continue to ask for us to have the same opportunity, and for the 812,000 people in Arizona that do not have a voice right now to have the opportunity to have me here representing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Adelita. Thank you, Jamie. It's a disgrace that Mike Johnson and Republicans continue to refuse to swear in Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva. It's disrespectful of her. It's disrespectful to the 812,000 people who elected her. It's disrespectful to the great state of Arizona, and it's disrespectful to the House of Representatives, which is supposed to be the people's house, but under Republican leadership has turned into nothing but a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. Questions?
Leader Jeffries, when did you receive or learn about the threat against you from Christopher Moynihan, and is it plausible that the Speaker hadn't heard about this case before a reporter asked him this morning, since the authorities in New York announced the arrest on Sunday?
Well, that's not clear, and that, you know, is for people to judge the credibility of that response. At the end of the day, here in America, we're living in a moment of extreme political violence, and that impacts every single person in public service and the people that we are all working hard to represent. But we will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up and stand up and speak up for the American people, to improve their quality of life, to address the extremism that is being unleashed on everyday Americans by this administration all across the country. We will not bend. We will not break. We will never bow down. And when it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me. Next question.
Mr. Leader, is the only way the government can reopen if Donald Trump gets engaged in negotiations?
Donald Trump is the president of the United States. Republicans have the House and have the Senate at the same period of time. They have complete control of government, and they made the decision to shut the government down. rather than provide health care to everyday Americans through extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits while at the same time addressing the other aspects of the Republican health care crisis. The biggest crisis in health care that we've ever seen in modern day America, brought to us by extreme Republican policies, like the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, triggering the fact that all across the country, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing, including in rural America. It was uncovered yesterday that throughout the state of Alabama, there are about 50 or so hospitals and medical institutions that may close in the next year or two because of Republican policies. Because of Republican policies in states like Georgia, Virginia, and Maryland, healthcare premiums without an extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits may increase by $2,000 a year. That's $24,000 on families that make an average of $63,000 per year. That's impossible for anyone to sustain. And so, of course, Donald Trump should come to the negotiating table. And Democrats have been very clear that we will sit down with any of them, anytime, any place, here at the Capitol or back at the White House, to reopen the government, to support our hardworking federal employees, to enact a spending agreement that makes life better for the American people, while at the same time decisively addressing the Republican health care crisis that even Marjorie Taylor Greene acknowledges is devastating the American people.
Why do you think he's sitting on the sidelines?
Thanks.
What do you make of it? A person accused of threatening you, recipient of one of those pardons?
I think the reckless and irresponsible pardons of hundreds of violent felons on January 6th has consequences, as eloquently articulated by Representative Jamie Raskin. There are consequences to that, beyond me. Beyond me. The consequences are, we've seen crimes committed by people who Donald Trump pardoned on the first day he was sworn into office, by folks who have been released back into society all across the country. Some of them violent crimes. And so there are consequences to these irresponsible actions, and not a single House Republican has walked away from them, not a single one. There are consequences when these extremists who are part of the Trump administration label the entirety of the Democratic Party as terrorists or criminals. There are consequences to that beyond us. We all know what we've signed up for, but there's pain being visited upon the American people because of actions taken by Donald Trump, supported by House Republicans and Senate Republicans on day one of his presidency. And I'm going to yield to my two colleagues, but by the way, what Donald Trump promised to do on day one of his presidency was lower costs for everyday American. That was the promise. He lied to the American people all of last year. Did he ever say I was going to pardon hundreds of violent felons who brutally beat police officers at this Capitol on January 6th? Did he ever say that? Was that the promise that Donald Trump and the Republicans made to the country? No. They failed to lower costs, have done nothing. Life is more expensive for everyday Americans. Electricity costs up. Grocery costs up. Housing costs up. Now they want to jack up healthcare premiums on working class Americans. But they have time to pardon hundreds of violent felons, release them back into society, threatening the public safety of everyday Americans, and then can't spend a moment trying to make life more affordable, make healthcare more affordable for the American people.
Can I add
Jamie?
one thing to this? Thank you for that question. Up until Donald Trump, the pardon process was governed by Department of Justice rules, by statute, and of course by the Constitution. And there was a very set pattern, which is each pardon application was considered on its own. It was analyzed what exactly that person had done, what they were convicted of. And up until Donald Trump, nobody had ever been pardoned who had not paid back in restitution their victims of a crime, or paid back fines to the government. In other words, you had to make yourself completely whole, then you had to demonstrate that you were rehabilitated, that you accepted the reality of your offense. Now, contrast that with what happened with Trump. He gets in on his first day in office without any reports from the pardon attorney about any of these people, any recommendations saying that they have paid off their restitution, they've paid their fines, they've made peace with their victims and so on. They've apologized to the police. No, none of that had happened. Instead, they issued a blanket pardon for everybody who had stormed the Capitol and participated in the shocking and atrocious events of January 6th. So what do you have in that mix? You have people who have been convicted before for domestic violence, for assault, for armed robbery, you name it, drug dealing, gun dealing, all of that's in there. And what do you know? After this mass pardon happens, people start getting picked up again. There's a guy down in Richmond who was burglarizing all of the houses in his neighborhood. And now this guy, Moynihan, says he's gonna eliminate the minority leader of the United States House of Representatives. So they have enough people over at the Department of Justice who know a lot about January 6th, including Ed Martin, who was there tweeting on that day, describing it as a day of celebration like Mardi Gras, and his senior advisor, Jared Wise, who was here yelling, "Kill him," about the police, that they should know how to get these people into line, because it's a very dangerous situation. And I just want to add finally to what Mr. Jeffries said. Speaker Johnson described the exercise of First Amendment rights across the country by 6 or 7 million Americans as part of the No Kings rallies as a Hate America rally. The Hate America rally happened on January 6th, 2021. We saw what a Hate America rally looks like. There were more than 140 police officers who were wounded, injured, hospitalized. Many of them have been forced out of police work because of what happened on that day. And what does Speaker Johnson say about that? Nothing. Now, he's part of the cover-up. He's part of trying to sweep the whole thing under the rug. Meantime, you had 7 million people participating peacefully, non-violently, in the American political process yesterday, and everybody should be praised for that. Those protests were a model for First Amendment exercise in the United States.
Thank you.
Speaking of the weekend, as you say, millions of Americans came out, the vast majority peaceful, old, young, all of that. However, Speaker Johnson displayed some of the signs that we saw, which did seem to indicate violence. One of them showing in effigy a picture of President Trump being hanged. Also, we've seen video of people saying that, for example, 8647 to them meant that they did want the president killed. How do you respond to those on the left using that kind of rhetoric?
We've continued to make clear in this country that political violence directed at anyone, at any time, for any reason, wherever it emanates from, is unacceptable. Democrats have made that clear. We don't see that coming from Republicans on the other side. We don't see that type of unequivocal denunciation. In fact, they've described the January 6th hate rally as Mardi Gras, as a normal tourist visit, as a parade, as a celebration, and then they pardon hundreds of violent people and unleash them back in communities across the United States of America. This group of people, these extremists on the other side, they have zero credibility, zero, on the issue of political violence. And these Republicans, they are not the party of law and order. They're the party of lawlessness and disorder in all of the ways, including the ongoing crime scene at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is running the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the country in real time. And we had nothing but crickets from Mike Johnson and the other side of the aisle. Get lost with your denunciations. The No Kings protest was peaceful, it was powerful, and it was patriotic. Millions of people, more than 7 million people. And so I've got no time for these people on the other side of the aisle.
Are you worried about rhetoric on the
We have continued to denounce political violence wherever it emanates from. It will be nice to see that type of denunciation coming from Republicans. Adelita, you want to say anything?
I think that in Arizona, we know very well what political violence looks like. Former Representative Gabby Giffords was shot while she was doing a Congress on Your Corner event. I think that what needs to be done is complete condemnation of any violence. And when you think about when we've all served locally, right? We all want to encourage people to get involved in our political system. The best representatives are those that are homegrown and are motivated to do this kind of service, like a public servant and servant leadership. And when we are faced with violence and attacks, it doesn't matter how strong people look on the outside, it shakes you on the inside. There is absolutely no reason why Leader Jeffries' family should be concerned about his safety. Nobody should have to deal with that kind of hate and violence on a regular basis. And so we can nitpick all of the little details, but fundamentally, this is not okay, and this is not normal. It's not. And when you have a president who is giving away $40 billion of our tax money to a foreign entity and not taking care of what's going on at home, but also, by the way, enriching themselves, I think that that's a conversation we should be having. But when we talk about signs here and there, and I mean, I was in Tucson, it is beautiful. There are like 4,000 people there, all walks of life, all ages. The vast majority had never gone to a protest before. That's pretty cool. And I think what that shows, and it's an indication of the general unhappiness and displeasure of the American people in this administration.
Michael?
We're 2 weeks away from 3 important elections. I'm curious to know if you think those 3 elections will they be a signal to kind of where the Democratic Party is headed as we go into 2026? Just how are you thinking about those elections? I know you've had varying degrees of activity in each of those. Just want to get your general.
It will be a signal about where the country is headed in the midst of dealing with the national nightmare that is the Trump administration and the Republican sycophants in the House and the Senate who are embracing all of this extremism. That's what the New Jersey gubernatorial election is going to represent. That's what the Virginia gubernatorial election is going to represent. And that's what Prop 50 in California is going to represent. And we're going to win. In California, I was there all weekend. We're going to win in California, stop Trump from stealing the election by rigging congressional maps all across the country, and we're just getting started in California. Remember I said this, just getting started in California.
Déclaration de Jeffries Hakim, qui c'est leader minoritaire en dedans chambre basse dans côté que nous connaissons un conflit qui existait entre parti républicain et le parti démocrate là sur question budget. Il n'est pas capable d'arriver à voter, madame, monsieur, dans le moment qu'on a parlé avec vous là. Tous les deux partis auraient été sous position. Entre-temps, situation l'a compliquée pour un pile citoyen en dedans population américaine. Côté que, il y a un paquet de monde qui perdu job déjà, un paquet de monde qui a travaillé, qui pas touché, non plus sous branché Pistaz Radio et télévision à présumé pour l'actualité. Sur le plan international, le président français, ancien président français Nicolas Sarkozy, actuellement, monsieur lit en prison pour une période de 5 ans après que il a été accusé, jeune que tu gagné mon entourage, il nous dit bien mon entourage. Nicolas Sarkozy qui était participé dans une malversation qui était recevoir l'argent dans le gouvernement libyen, mais il n'y a pas jeune que Nicolas Sarkozy il était directement impliqué dans le dossier si là puisque c'était mon entourage dans la campagne qui était participé dans l'activité ils ont estimé que monsieur pas capable connaître du tout de ce qui passé après tout jugement qui fait tout chef d'accusation que yo retiré sous de Nicolas Sarkozy lui-même cependant yo mettez monsieur dans prison pour complicité puisque il y a un monde entourage qui était participé dans confiolo si là actuellement Nicolas Sarkozy commencé 5 ans prisonnier li capable de faire son période de 2 ans ou bien 3 ans mais c'est duré ça que a été déterminé 5 ans monsieur gain pour le passer dans prison c'est vrai il gain chambre li gon côté qui réservé à part pour lui l'autre prisonnier pas rencontrer l'a gain occasion pour le faire 2 voyages d'hier pendant journée pour le garder soleil monsieur dit il annoncé il gain 2 livres qu'il a écrit là li pendant tout le temps que dans prison jusqu'à ce qu'elle sorti li projeté également pour écrire un autre livre mais ancien président français Nicolas Sarkozy actuellement monsieur entamé 5 ans de prison dans le pays la France. Nous parlons rapidement en Haïti pour nous côté Dominique Fitien qui pourra dire nous ça gagné dans actualité sportive là sur réseau pour la puissance FM radio et télévision Red branché à mes de partout.
Bonsoir Prien, bonjour, bonsoir à tout fidèles auditeurs Pistasio. Dominique entre la caillou. Nous allons informer vous sur le plan sportif et nous connaissons en Haïti, dossier sélection nationale yo toujours kembe actualité. Dans minute que nous parlé là, gagné 2 actualités qui kembe et sport à Barbola pa nous. C'est 2 derniers matchs Haïti gagnés dans le cadre de dernière ligne droite éliminatoire Coupe du Monde en 2026 là, avec dossier Johnny Junior Théodore là. Johnny Junior Théodore, c'est un jeune footballeur qui est sorti du côté de Marseille, dans le sud du pays. Monsieur dit qu'on a joué championnat interscolaire, championnat vacances, surtout une équipe qui est l'Olympique de Marseille. Côté monsieur fait plusieurs parcours avec équipe football ça, champion plusieurs fois dans différents championnats vacances. Monsieur a eu une chance pour intégrer sélection haïtienne dans moins de 17 ans qui pourra jouer phase finale en Coupe du Monde en Qatar là. Depuis quelques jours là, c'est ça qui kembe actualité à côté. Pendant Johnny Junior Théodore en Espagne, délégation a parlé dans le match FC Barcelone, monsieur est arrivé sauvé. Il ressemble que il y a tonton monsieur qui a vécu en France, qui vient chercher lui pour traverser en France. C'est pas 2 balles en pile, dossier ça a fait, grand pile monde qui opine sous dossier ça. Il y a monde qui ouel de bon oeil, comme ça il y a monde tout qui critiquait amèrement ça que Johnny Junior Théodore fait côté li quitter délégation li aller en France. En pile monde ouais que monsieur hypothéquer chance l'autre jeune footballeur haïtien. Et pourquoi pas le football national en général, puisque nous connaissons qui difficulté qui qu'on gagne le bon club qui te pays pour aller à l'étranger dans question visa et ça vient répéter là, ça vient aggraver situation. Sélection nationale là, j'en nous connais ni qui en Espagne là pour un stage de préparation qui doit quitter d'ici 30 octobre pour aller au Qatar. Nous avons la Coupe du Monde là démarrer 3 novembre, mais Haïti a rendez-vous le 4 contre l'équipe Égypte là, c'est pour le premier match dans le cadre de Coupe du Monde en Qatar là. Quant à la sélection senior là, après défaite en sélection devant Honduras 3-0, c'est pas 2 balles en pile qui gagnent, en pile mon ouais. Rêve yoté espéré semblait pas privé vrai. Parce que vous avez rêvé ouais Haïti qui prend en phase finale en Coupe du Monde senior après 74. Haïti après défaite là hypothéquer chance li dans une situation difficile parce que destin n'est pas n'amène. Mais quand même chance là elle est toujours là. Même en place barragiste, Haïti capable de joindre si toutefois 2 derniers matchs l'irrité a fait victoire là-dedans. Nous rappelons le 13 novembre, Haïti a gagné pour jouer contre l'équipe Costa Rica à Curaçao. Et puis le 18 novembre, c'est pour le dernier match face à l'équipe Nicaragua. Nous rappelons l'équipe haïtienne a fait 3-3 avec Costa Rica dans le match aller. Match retour là, il prévoit pour 13 novembre. Et Haïti a gagné l'équipe Nicaragua 3-0. Et match retour là, la fête 18 novembre en Cap Villa. Alors, j'en nous dis tantôt, 2 victoires équipe haïtienne permettent au moins l'État a joué une place sans barragiste pour ta continuer rêver participer dans la phase finale de la Coupe du Monde dans 3 pays dans l'Amérique du Nord, Canada, Mexique, États-Unis, pour organiser pendant l'été 2026. Non pas, M. Fritz Dominique.
Merci Fritz Dominique depuis Haïti pour le compte de radio-télévision Puissance FM. Madame, monsieur, n'a pas fini avec édition ça pour nous dire que Jean-Dominique a parlé. La situation est compliquée pour l'équipe nationale puisque gagnait 3 équipes, par exemple l'équipe Curaçao qui gagnait 8 points, derrière l'équipe Jamaïque là, qui occupe première place dans le groupe relégable ou bien dans le groupe pour repêchage là, gagnait également l'équipe Costa Rica qui possède 6 points. Dans on a parlé avec vous là, donc Dominique pour équipe haïtienne, c'est 3 équipes qui gagnaient 8 points, 2 équipes à 6 points, 1 à 8 points dans le groupe ça. Donc, Jean-Claude, même si Haïti fait 2 victoires, eh bien, si équipe Curaçao a fini en 2e position derrière équipe Jamaïque là, c'est dire que yo a fini à 9 ou bien 11 points. Donc, Haïti gagne réellement obligation presque absolue pour tout espoir, même pour le groupe repêchage là, faudrait-il que yo fait 11 points ça qui va mettre en position moyenne que l'autre 2 équipes, par exemple, l'équipe Costa Rica qui gagne 6 points, pour lui-même, Haïti, faut Haïti t'a battu pour le mettre en retard à 6 points là. Donc, next rencontre que l'État fait, une victoire, ça qui t'a mettre Costa Rica à 9 points de Haïti, espérant également, là, fait une autre victoire devant l'équipe du Nicaragua, les ça t'a mettre à 11 points, l'État dans course pour un billet qui permet l'équipe repêchage à jouer tournoi si là. Dans le cas contraire, c'est d'abord souhaiter lui-même les battre Costa Rica battre Honduras qui t'a pas brouillé 4 la net. Haïti, il t'a gagné 8 points. Donc Costa Rica, il t'a arrêté et avec il t'a monté tout. Costa Rica t'a monté les salles, Costa Rica t'a gagné 9 points. OK? Costa Rica t'a gagné 9 points parce que il y a 6. OK? Donc, Haïti lui-même, l'État a joué avec Nicaragua, il bat Nicaragua. Le ça, gagné équipe Honduras dans tout, qui lui-même gagné 8 points déjà. S'il a fait une autre victoire, ça met à 11 points, égal à l'équipe haïtienne. Donc, c'est goal différence qui va séparer. Ça veut dire que côté au passé, la ligue extrêmement difficile pour l'équipe nationale à jouer, la 4 qualificative. C'est très difficile. Seulement, il y a un résultat qui est compliqué dans la tâche comme ça. C'est défaite que l'équipe nationale a enregistré face aux hommes de Honduras dans la dernière sortie que était là avant 2 dernières rencontres qui étaient pour l'équipe ça, les disputer dans la phase finale compétition. Donc, madame, monsieur, c'est comme ça, situation est pour le moment. Haïti, côté que lié là, Jean-Dominique se dit, nous pas gagner destin nous nous encore dans tout noir ça, côté que un peu le monde espérer ouais. Haïti dans une phase finale de Coupe du Monde après épopée 74 ans. Merci tout le monde. N'allez, nous remercions, espérant que nous allons rencontrer dans l'autre occasion pour nous parler encore de ça qui a pu dominer l'actualité à temps sur le national.